Brooke, Matthew, Randy, and you. And you know what? Sports Hub STL is presented by DraftKings, where the crown is yours. Brooke, have you ever had to try to get out of jury duty before?
I have not.
I've got jury duty June 9th in St. Louis County, and I'm enthusiastic about it. I like it. I want to be in that jury. I want to be a part of a jury. You know, I was going to be part of a murder trial. Murder.
Ooh, that would be a fun one. Well, I shouldn't say fun and murder in the
I
same sentence, should I?
I was intrigued. But here's the thing: and I will say this publicly. I think, and lawyers, tell me if I'm wrong. I think that you can be too smart for the lawyers in a trial. I don't know that they necessarily. I think if you really want to get on a jury, you wear one of those T-shirts with holes in it. You muss your hair up, and you don't act like you have any leadership ability. I think that's a really good way to try to go about getting on a jury.
So you're basically saying somebody who could maybe
Pliable.
pliable, malleable, maybe lower intelligence, so that you could be manipulated in sorts into believing something, or not believing something.
And so I did. I don't even know if this. I don't know if the one that I went to where the murder trial. I don't know that it was it ever got to trial. I don't know what ever happened. I didn't.
So you were not.
They gave me the boot. So I that one. I went in and I was wearing like a tie and a jacket and stuff, and I got booted on the first day.
And they said you were
knew
too
everything
polished.
about me too. The lawyers knew everything about me. They're incredible.
Wait, what did they say?
Oh, like Mr. Karraker, you're a broadcaster in town, yeah. And then the guy was from the South. He's kind of the smooth. They'd make a movie out of this guy, and tried to talk sports with me and stuff. And, no, you're wrong. Stuff like that. So.
Wow. Yeah. And so now you're being summoned once again. I feel like I was telling Randy before the show started, and yes, we started at 10 o'clock, not 10:02 this morning. I already see that in the comments. We started early today, not at 10:02. Rocky hates when we say that, but you're being summoned once again. I feel like as long as I've known you, and I've known you for a while, but working with you, you've already been selected for jury duty about like 3-4 times. It feels like I haven't been working together. Yeah, I haven't at all.
Random, right? Sure, it's random.
Okay.
If your name starts with RAN, I guess it's random. How about our St. Louis Cardinals? They own Paul Skenes. Paul Skenes and Freddie Peralta. Freddie Peralta 4-6 with a 4.91 against the Redbirds in his career. A rough go, and we're pleased about it for Paul Skenes last night. First time he'd ever allowed as many as 5 runs in a start in a major league game. He goes 6 innings, allows 5 runs, all earned on 6 hits, struck out 7 and walked only 1. And a Cardinal lineup that didn't have Lars Nootbaar and obviously doesn't have Nolan Gorman or Ivan Herrera still continues to roll. Brooke, Cardinals number 1 in batting average, number 1 in on-base percentage, number 2 in slugging, number 2 in OPS, and number 3 in runs per game in Major League Baseball.
The Brant Brown effect is in full swing. You see what we just did there? In full swing right now. Offensively, this team has been great. We've been talking a lot about the pitching side of things. Now, I say offensively, the team has been great. I know that Willson Contreras continuing to struggle a little bit. He was 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts.
3 strikeouts, but he didn't strike out 4 times.
Hey, there you go. There's a positive right there. No golden sombrero for him. Right. You have to find the sunshine and lollipops there. But offensively, they've been doing really well. That hasn't been the issue for the team. It's been pitching. But you saw yesterday, Sonny Gray, 4 Ks over 5 innings. And I know a lot of people wanted to see him go a little bit longer into the game, deeper into the game. How did you feel about that?
I was fine with what he delivered last night. 71 pitches. It was cold. It was.
But I thought he likes the cold. He doesn't like the heat.
He likes 72. 73 might be a little bit hot. 71's chilly. 73. So that was too cold for everybody, though. I'm sure it was too cold for Skenes, too cold for the hitters. It was just cold. Victor Scott said, I don't care. I play ball at West Virginia. I'm good. But otherwise, I think everybody else was too cold.
I saw a Pittsburgh sports writer ripping into, I don't know if you guys saw this on social media, but he had a picture of Tommy Pham up wearing a batting glove out in the outfield, and he was ripping him for wearing one, and he's hitting poorly currently right now. And I'm like, it is cold there. Like, I think it's fair. Maybe it's not the glove that you want to see him wear, but still, at the same time, it's cold,
right.
so I understand that.
I thought Steven Matz was great in the cold weather. He's from New York, so he's used to it. But he goes an inning in the third, strikes out a hitter. And that earned run average for Matzy is at 2.18. I'm intrigued about when he enters the rotation. I wonder how much he'll pitch. Do they go 70, 75 pitches right off the bat with him on the 16th?
I don't know. That's the plan that I'm still a little bit confused about because we talked about it yesterday. It's the bullpen that really is in a tough position right now. And I mentioned this yesterday. Once you get past the 10 days, you can start maybe cycling some of these guys in and out of Memphis. But we were having this conversation at the Cardinals radio lunch yesterday. Free food, of course, we were there, and it was wonderful. We can dive into that at some point if you want us to. I ate way too many crumble cookies. I know that we always talk about food on this show, but we were discussing that of who you would even call up. There's not really many guys you
Ludus,
could.
I mean, there isn't, and Leahy's been good, and you're going to have.
I think Kyle Leahy deserves some credit. I feel like he's in the circle of Ollie's bullpen circle of trust. I think that Matz is currently in there. I think you could put Leahy in there, and you could put Ryan Helsley. Am I missing somebody? Mayton in that whole circle of trust. Yoho has been kind of yo-yoing
in the circle of trust.
Yes, but Kyle Leahy in 5 games, 6-inning pitch, he's only given up 1 hit, 1 earned run, and 2 walks and 7 strikeouts. He has something for everybody. It seems like righties and lefties, and he can go multiples. I think that he's a positive for this bullpen currently.
I think so too. So you look, Matt's 2.16, and this is obviously early, you know that. Leahy 1.35, Phil Matone, former producer for Billy Joel, 0.00. Then Roy Croft 8.44, Romero 5.40, and Fernandez 13.5. Then Helsley, and then John King is at 9. So you basically have 4 guys that are 7-up guys. As Tony La Russa used to call Brad Thompson, you only use them when you're 7 up or 7 down. Somebody's got to get fixed. And I would think that they'll give more opportunities. Fernandez, with 5 games under his belt, he might be running out of opportunities. John King is what he is. I think we already know that. And then
Roy Croft, I'm surprised wasn't sent down.
But he's got such good stuff. He just needs to be better with it. He needs to use his stuff better than he does.
That sounds like Miles Michaelis.
Yeah, kind of does. But at least Roy Croft, he was pitching in Indy ball a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I'm just surprised they just haven't made moves. I'm just trying to figure out, going back to your question about the 6-man rotation, of how exactly this shakes out and where you can make sure that you're getting the best use of all these guys.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a couple of things that you can do. Number one, they're going to get nobody will be able to claim that they're not sharp, right? Because you're only going to have 7 relievers and 6 starters. So the relievers are all going to get plenty of opportunities. But then you do have to determine, if you've made the decision now, 11 games into the season, that one guy deserves to go down, then you have to have a guy to bring up. You're exactly right. And one of the problems that you have in the system is that the Cardinals AAA Farm Club in Memphis, they haven't played enough to be able to evaluate the guys. And I think that's where Roy Croft, Fernandez, those guys probably get saved a little bit, because the Cardinals will take a longer look at them because they just haven't had the opportunity to look at the AAA pitching staff. So
you mentioned that you didn't have an issue with Sonny Gray being pulled after 71 pitches. Kyle Leahy, I know I saw some other people kind of picking on this, and we can nitpick every little thing, right? Every single move. Yeah. That's what we do here. We have great fans here who notice every single little thing. I noticed people pointing out Kyle Leahy that he could have gone a little bit longer. Do you think that he should have been capped at, I think it was like 25 pitches?
Yeah, I think in this day and age, that's probably where you're going with essentially a 1-inning guy.
Yeah.
So
I think it's fine.
Yeah.
And also you have to keep this bullpen healthy at this point.
Right. And Mayton is getting used all the time. So at some point, maybe today, Mayton doesn't go, and Leahy didn't pitch on. Oh, he did pitch on Sunday. So Leahy's probably not available either.
Yeah, I wouldn't assume so.
Some of the guys down in Memphis, by the way, Riley O'Brien has pitched in 3 games, has yet to allow a run, 5 strikeouts and 1 walk. So maybe Riley O'Brien makes his way back up here. You liking that, Matthew? Yes, he's eating
currently.
Okay.
Right now.
Randy, I understand Newt being the leadoff because of power, but hold on, there's a cup in front of the TV screen here. But BS as a leadoff man and your best contact hit in the 2 spot seem right to me. The only problem I have with that, and I agree, VS2 as your leadoff hitter.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to have those two left-handed hitters that can be victimized by a left-handed reliever late in the game back-to-back.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that, were you surprised by Nootbaar getting the day off? Or you talked about this, that Ollie Marmol showed you a chart of how they basically have everything mapped out of rest days for guys.
And especially with, you have the lineup, right, Matthew? We've already done that. But day game after a night game, 11:30 in the morning game after a cold night game, it all makes sense. Now, cold wasn't a part of this, but they have everything mapped out, especially with day games after night games. So the guys
keeping guys healthy,
and the guys that get a day off today essentially will get 2 days off because the Cardinals don't play tomorrow.
And if we talked about it in Cards Hub 365 before the show, but Nootbaar, Contreras, Donovan, Arenado, Burleson, Pages, Victor Scott II, Thomas Sajaci, Mason Wynn. That's the lineup today. So Nootbaar is back to leading off, but he's in right field today. Okay. Brendan Donovan's in left field, still in his third spot. Contreras still in the lineup at DH, and I think guys like Eric Cleveland pointing out his K rate of 40% are a little bit annoyed by that. Pedro Pages behind Alec Burleson, batting sixth. Victor Scott, Sajaci, Wynn is the bottom of the order. I think there's some people annoyed by Victor Scott.
The DH.
The DH is Willson Contreras because Pedro Pages is at catcher and Alec Burleson is at first base.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Yeah.
You can't get him going by sitting him.
No. With Willson Contreras?
Yeah, right. We're 11 games into the season. And, hey, look, he's got 3 years left at a lot of money, $18 million a year. He's not sitting. And if he's sitting, he's not getting any better. And when you look at his career numbers, he's actually been very consistent over the course of his career. He'll be fine. He'll be fine. So I would not worry about that too much.
Jay Reinegate says, I'm all for riding out the Willson Contreras slump, but it's getting time to move him down at least, right?
You can move him down. Here's the thing. Winning is not the priority here. Okay.
Oh no, Randy!
You don't take him out of the.
But did you look? They were able to get to Paul Skenes yesterday.
They were.
So we're riding this thing out.
The thing is,
this is winning.
162 game season.
Oh.
Would they love to win? Yes, but this is a perfect example. You've got a day off tomorrow. You aren't going to get Willson Contreras going any better by sitting on the bench. So give him his day off tomorrow and see if he can do something today.
Yeah, maybe he can break out of that slump a little bit.
We just have to look at this. Let's look at it logically, okay? $18 million a year for 3 more years, right? This year, 2 more after this. He's not going anywhere. He's going to be your first baseman.
Until Ivan Herrera needs to be your first baseman.
There you go. And then they sit him down.
Then we'll just have this constant battle of catchers moving over to first base.
And what it'll be, at that point, you'll have your $18 million catcher, first baseman, left fielder, DH.
Oh, that sounds awful. That's an overpay. Speaking of Paul Skenes, and we were discussing this before the show, and I know that Rockyo, you and Joe were talking about this on Cards Hub 365, but the Cardinals have his number. Maybe the Cardinals are actually Paul Skenes' kryptonite, so you can hang your hat on that the Cardinals always find a way. Found a way. Paul Skenes has lost 4 games in his Major League Baseball career, 3 to the Cardinals. So the Cardinals are Paul Skenes' kryptonite. Who has been the Cardinals' kryptonite over the years? I said Kyle Hendricks. Bud Norris, I know, is a name that you guys brought up.
Those guys, yeah.
Yeah.
Hendricks has been unbelievable because he doesn't have great stuff. So I would go with him. And he did it again last week, right? After all those years with the Cubs, he does it for the Angels now.
Don't forget, they get torn apart by TBA. He destroys them. He ends up being some 24-year-old lefty that I've never heard of and have never heard of after the game. Mm-hmm. But TBA absolutely just slices this lineup apart.
Yeah, he really does. And that's they watch so much film on TBA. You would think that with all the video they have on TBA that they would be able to
crack him. They would be able to crack him in some way. But what do you think the Cardinals are able to do there, that they're able to figure out Paul Skenes, but the rest of Major League Baseball struggles to do so?
I think this is a different Cardinal team. Now, granted, he did strike out 7, but this is just a tougher team to strike out. And you know the team that has the fewest strikeouts in baseball is the Padres. And there's something to be said for not striking out. And I think that's an approach that Brant Brown takes. And when he sends the guys up to the plate, says, okay, do you want to be a hitter or a slugger? My guess is that they want to just be a hitter. They want to be bat to ball against Paul Skenes. And they do have some really good bat to ball guys.
It sounds so simple, but Brant Brown, that is what he said during spring training, is that there's a time to hit, there's a time to slug.
Yeah.
And that has been his approach for the Cardinals this season. You would think that maybe they would have done that before. I don't know what the message was exactly prior to that. Clearly it was not scoring and with runners in scoring position.
And that's when you fire a hitting coach, it's because he's not getting the job done. I don't know if it's necessarily the approach, because they did stick with Ward for a couple of years, right?
Well, Paul Goldschmidt was really close to Turner Ward. That was his guy.
Yeah.
I guess my question is that it sounds so simple, and sometimes we do kind of hit on the coaches a little too much when it's the players that have to execute it in the end of the day. So when do you give the coaches credit, and when do you also hammer them on not giving the right technique or approach for players?
Let's use a different sport. Let's use the analogy of Craig Berube. I think does the message get stale, or do the players respect the message? I've talked to Ollie about this. Some guys get up here and it's really hard to change them when what got them here worked in the minors, and they keep doing it even though it doesn't work in the majors. And at some point they just have to break down and say, okay, it's not working for me here. I have to try something new. And sometimes you just have to let them wallow a little bit. And I would think that some of these guys, after what the Cardinals went through last year, they were craving a new voice, and that's what Brant Brown brought to him.
I guess going to the hockey comparison, I doubt that Drew Bannister's message was that different from Jim Montgomery. It's a different messenger.
Different messenger. Happy birthday, Drew Bannister, 51 today.
Is it really his birthday?
Yeah.
Were you just sitting on that?
No,
I had no idea.
I had no.
Oh my gosh, that's terrible. I feel terrible for him. Well, I'm sure he got
getting paid.
He got a nice severance, right?
Yeah, he did. He was still under contract.
If I was him, I would pull a Cliff Kingsbury and just go off to Thailand. Did he go to Thailand?
Thailand,
yeah.
But here's
just
the thing.
Go away.
He's I think he signed a 2-year deal when he became the Blues head coach. So I think he's got another year left next year too. Getting paid pretty good money.
Does he go back to the? I don't know. I feel bad for him.
Yeah, I do too. But the point is that in every sport, I mean, look at Michael Malone with the Nuggets. Sometimes it's the front office. I got Matthew mad, but sometimes your voice doesn't resonate with certain players. The reason that Malone wanted to go with the veteran players is because they listened to him, and the kids don't. And so, the general manager wanted to have Malone play the kids who weren't listening to him. Maybe Brant Brown has a brother that is a pitching coach. That'd be nice. Grant Brown.
Grant Brown.
Oh, there we go. Good thought.
But that's what I'm saying is, when is it fair to, because you can say it's on the pitchers. Dusty Blake's not going out on the mound.
What?
Dusty Springfield.
Thank you.
Blake Dusty, whatever you want to call him.
Blake. He's
He's not the one who's going out there that is struggling with his command on the mound. That's something that he can't control. How much credit clearly with some of them. But that's what I'm saying is, like, how much credit do you give him, and how much are you putting the blame on him?
I think, and by the way, one could say the Cardinals pitching of late has been a little dusty. Here's the thing. Going back to messaging, and you and I both talked to pitchers who, and this might not be fair at all because he might be brilliant, but they're saying, this guy's a pitching coach at Duke. He was a pitching coach at Duke, and now he's my pitching coach at the major league level. And I just wonder, it's not that they disrespect him, but they disrespect the background a little bit because he didn't do what they're doing pitching at the major league level.
His resume was very small when he started out with the Cardinals.
Yeah.
It was very small, which the Cardinals aren't the only team in Major League Baseball where they're hiring guys like that who have more of an analytical, technological approach to things. And it seems like Dusty Springfield might be that kind of coach.
Right. Yeah.
And remember when we had Adam Wainwright on the radio show that we were once on? Yes, we were on radio at a certain point. Back in the day. Long time ago. But remember, what did Adam Wainwright say that he thought he was at first? Just like
analytics guy.
Yeah, like iPad guy, basically.
Yep, that's what they call
And then he said that he actually found some insightful things that helped him. But I wonder if all players take that approach to it.
It's hard. And when as a fan base, we have been able to experience Dave Duncan, right? And Dave Duncan, he wasn't the mechanical guru, but Dave Duncan because he was a former catcher, I think, he gave major league pitchers and had catchers that developed an incredible game plan against the opposition.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that the Cardinals have that. Maybe that's really hard to do now, is to develop a game plan against the opposition. But that's one of the things that I've heard, is that and pitchers that aren't here anymore, were concerned about the game plan that they were given going in to a start under Blake Lively.
I know I saw a text coming in a while ago, and I thought it was a pretty good question of, do you think the Willson Contreras contract can eventually turn into like the Brett Cecil, and I can't remember what the other player was, the Fowler contract too?
Where they could move him?
Well, just saying that
Cecil
maybe
did.
that contract will be looked at that way is how I took that text.
Like bad?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think already, because you gave him $87.5 million to be a catcher.
Yeah.
So I think already you have to look at it that way. Now, are they going to, they got rid of Cecil and they gave him $7.5 million to go away. They paid a good portion of Fowler's salary when they sent him to the Angels. Thing with Willson, he's 31. I think obviously he's going to be 32 on his next birthday. It's pretty stupid.
You hope.
Well, yeah. Here, let me tell you when his birthday is, because we'll wish him a happy birthday. May 13th coming up. He's going to be 33. So 30,
is he a Gemini?
I don't know.
I think he's a
33 years
Gemini.
old. And so that's going to be a tough contract for the Cardinals to move. And he, by the way, would have to agree. And he's already said he doesn't want to leave now. I wonder if he would want to leave. I don't think the Cardinals will be able to do that with him. That's just not as easy to do anymore. And let's not forget that after next season, so next year is this is the third year of the contract, right?
Mm-hmm.
Next year is the fourth year of the contract. We're looking at a lockout. And so he probably won't he definitely won't be traded during a lockout, or probably
It
after
won't
that
happen.
season. Yeah.
Is that a Dominican
is that
33? Right?
Yeah, Dominican 33. There you go.
Dominican
well
33.
done. Thank you, Samuel.
That was a good one. But to your point, and I think that we should mention this too, I don't blame Willson Contreras in this situation
Not
whatsoever.
at all.
If anything, I'm looking at the Cardinals' lack of preparation for Willson Contreras.
Yeah. And number one, like I said, I think he's going to bounce back. I think he'll be fine offensively. I think for a team like this one, he's really good because his attitude never wavers. He's very competitive.
Mm-hmm.
He's very happy. He's a great cheerleader. And I think there's a lot of good things that young players can take from Willson Contreras.
Yeah.
Not like out of his locker, but just the things that he does on the field. You don't want to, back in the day with the last couple of years, it wasn't 87. It was like 85. Football Cardinals players were getting stuff stolen from their lockers by other players.
Why?
Because I think it was getting sold to pay for drugs.
Wait, which team was this?
The Football Cardinals.
Oh yeah, but
Well,
I'm saying, like, what was the time period?
1985. Yeah, it was the year Haney got.
Brooke, I'm disappointed that you had to ask what era of sports were teammates robbing each other.
I was thinking the specific team, like which 80s team was this?
Well,
Bernie
the Mets. I think it was just cocaine was wild in the 80s. All right, let's just be 100% honest here.
If Bernie's watching, Bernie, send a text and see if you can come on and tell us a story. Bernie was covering; he was the beat writer for that team, so we'll find out.
No, I wanted the specific. What I was asking was the specific team this was, because now I got to do a deeper dive into this.
85 Football Cardinals.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think honestly you could build a dartboard of 1980s sports teams and probably have a pretty good success rate of hitting a team that had some issues with the booger sugar, the Nicaraguan marching powder.
Well done.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
The Bandito Blanco.
Yeah, Luis Sharp had huge cocaine problem. A hell of a drug.
It was everywhere back then, huh?
It really was, yeah.
It was just everywhere. Yeah. It was just everywhere floating around.
Bill Parcells. One of the reasons that those Giants teams before the Super Bowl got so bad was because they had players that were negatively affected by using cocaine.
Oh,
They had
because
some
then they
that-
were using it so much that they were so dependent on it. Is
Yeah.
that what you're saying?
Yeah, well, and
Ooh.
there's one player in particular that apparently wasn't that affected and played pretty well. Just my guess.
Yes. They weren't testing for that back then.
They were not. No.
No.
So anyway, I don't know how we got there, but we
It
did.
happened. I think there needs to be a story done on that.
Oh yeah, there was also a drug trial in Pittsburgh, a baseball drug trial in Pittsburgh in 1985, where Keith Hernandez testified and admitted that he had used the powder.
And that was and obviously there's a lot of reaction to that because that was post him very publicly getting angry at St. Louis for being like, I wasn't involved in that at all.
Yeah, threatened to sue people.
Yeah, saying he wasn't involved in that.
Yeah.
The Pittsburgh
Yikes.
drug trials are absolutely insane. Obviously, you got the Doc Ellis story, which is a little bit beforehand. The way that it takes over and it permeates through every sport in the 80s is truly insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Willson saying that's what I was going to jump on and say. There was a 30 for 30 that was done on the
on the Pittsburgh drug trial.
on the drug trial. I think it was on the
And then the one on the
They did
Mets
one on the
with,
Mets too. Yeah,
with Straw and Gooden. Yeah.
Gooden, and that one's great. That one's so ubiquitous that like Andy Samberg had a TV show called Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and he made like 4 different jokes about how bad the Mets were when it came to their drug problems. I love how ubiquitous like that piece of trivia is.
You know what's interesting? I covered those teams in the 80s,
Mhm.
and I hated Howard Johnson, and I hated Wally Backman, and I wasn't thrilled with Gary Carter. Never talked to Hernandez. Dykstra was just kind of a guy there, had his issues. My 2 favorite players on that team to cover were Strawberry and Gooden.
Really?
Yeah, great guys, both of them. And now, looking back, I had no idea that they were going out and drugging up after games, but those were my 2 favorite good guys, really nice people to deal with on
They were
that.
just having some fun.
They were having some.
Do you think there should be an asterisk like on that for sports too? Of there was a little cocaine happening here that might have helped some of these players.
Absolutely. That'd be a smart thing. But we don't know who was using and who wasn't.
Kind of like the steroid era, huh?
Yeah, it is. We're gonna talk to Lou Korac from NHL.com. He covers your St. Louis Blues. He's over at Enterprise Center because we've got the Frozen Four in St. Louis this weekend. But before we get to Lou, we want you to know about what's going on here at Sports Hub STL because there's a lot of cool stuff, and you should join us at Sports Hub STL. And make sure that you've subscribed to our YouTube page and like the video if you haven't already. Go to sportshubstl.com and sign up for the Hub newsletter sent to your inbox twice a week. And anytime St. Louis sports news breaks, you'll be the first to know about Sports Hub STL events and merchandise. Get exclusive content and prize opportunities and more. And while you're on the site, check out all the St. Louis sports content, including game recaps, programming highlights, sports news and opinion, gambling tips, and more. It's all on the website at sportshubstl.com. All right, let's see if we can see Lou. There he is, Lou Korac, NHL.com. How you doing, buddy?
Good. How are you guys?
Good. Oh,
Great.
Frozen Four practice, or is that later?
Actually, excuse me, man. No, actually, I'm heading down. I see you guys say talks live from the Frozen Four. Sorry about that. I am heading down after I'm done with you guys here. Actually.
Okay.
Well,
good
you
deal.
are with us live talking about the Frozen Four, so it's not
Yeah.
technically wrong, Lou.
I guess. Yeah. No kidding. Yeah, I'm going to be heading down for the practice sessions today and check out a little. How does Butchergross say it? College hockey.
Hockey. Yeah. So, and I was telling Brooke beforehand, I think I'm right here. Wasn't Jim Montgomery's first gig at the University of Denver?
It was, yeah. He won the Frozen Four back in, was it 2017 or 18? Randy, you're better at this stuff than I am.
I think it was 17. I think that's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was talked about it the other day. He spoke very highly of David Carl. He actually said it's only a matter of time before that guy gets a job in the NHL. And yeah, especially if they win it this year, I can see him getting one of these coaching jobs coming out. It's going to be there'll be a sort of a Black Monday day in the NHL here soon enough. He'll get one of those jobs.
Lou, just how big is this to have this happen here in St. Louis with the men's Frozen Four?
It's pretty awesome. I mean, You had what was it, Randy, last year? The regional? I think it was a regional that was here
over at
last year.
Centene.
Yeah, over at Centene. And you got to see the young Blackhawks prospect Lutz-Olof play in that thing. That was pretty cool. And to have this back here again, it's pretty awesome. I mean, if you haven't been to one, actually, this is actually going to be my first one live, so I'm actually looking forward to this.
Lou, how much concern do you have about the injury to Dylan Holloway?
Sorry, I lost you guys there for a second.
The Holloway injury, and I know JR reported that the Blues didn't like what they heard from the doctor. How much concern is there?
You know what? One thing that struck with me with Jim Montgomery is when he said it's an injury that they're not familiar with. So when you hear something like that, it's almost like you're going into a bit of an unknown. So I'm not gonna speculate one way or the other. I watched the interview. I watched the injury a couple of different times, and I don't know. I just don't know. At first, there were a couple of us that thought maybe it was a skate cut, and I'm looking at it and I just didn't see it that way. It almost looked like it was somewhere around that hip pelvic area.
Right. That's what I thought too.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're almost kind of squirming a little bit, because once you start thinking of that, you're starting to think of what happened to Jay Bouwmeester, and you all know the recovery and the process and everything that he went through. But you know what? Dylan Holloway's 23 years old. I'm not a doctor. I don't claim to be one. So let's just let this thing play out and just kind of see where the chips fall, because they need this guy, and they can definitely use him in the lineup, because he's a really big piece and's had a great year.
Yeah, Lou, in that loss the other day, obviously you win 12 in a row and everything's going great. And so it's hard to just pick on one loss. But my biggest takeaway is that they need Dylan Holloway, that you could notice that he wasn't out there on the ice. So who are the guys that need to step up in his absence?
Well, I mean, you've got a number of the young guys that are playing. Zach Bolduc, had a chance to talk to him last week. And you know what? He really is comfortable in his own skin. I kind of use that now and I say that because I think he feels like he's comfortable in his own NHL skin, because you get a guy that comes in, he's a first round pick. You almost get a sense that he's auditioning himself to see if a player really belongs in this league. And you finally just get a sense talking to him that he feels like that he belongs with the way that he has played ever since the Four Nations. And that goes for a lot of guys. I mean, nobody's going to do the things that Dylan Holloway does. I think he's really picked up his game in the physicality department. He's very sound defensively. That's where I think even maybe a guy like Jake Neighbors needs to stick, because Jake Neighbors is playing in his spot now with Braden Shen and with Jordan Kyrou. So I asked Jim Montgomery that, is Jake Neighbors a guy that could step in and fill those shoes? They're a little bit different players, but they sort of go about things in the same light. So I think that's a guy that can also be a big help in this area. But can somebody just step in and take Dylan Holloway's place? I don't think so, just because of all the intangibles that he does bring.
Hey, Lou, do you agree with me that when they brought up Dvorsky, I kind of thought they're going to play him? It doesn't make any sense to have Dvorsky here if he's not going to play.
Yeah, you know what, Randy? You knew he was going to play that first game because of some of the things that they were dealing with, Pavel Buchnevich being out, being one of them there. And I thought about that, and he did sit for 4 games. And I'm thinking to myself, is this a good idea for them to just be sitting him? But on the flip side of that, I think it gives him an opportunity to understand the life of what an NHL player is. Not just on the ice, but all the things off the ice, being around the veteran guys, just living and learning the moment. And I think that was good for him at the time. And then when they do send him down, it's with the thought that, he's 19 years old and he's just got to play games, plain and simple. You don't want this kid sitting around for too long, especially when he was going as well as he was in Springfield. But, now he's back with the team. Obviously, Alexander Texier, that's been a bit of an enigma there. Whether you're talking about illnesses with him, he's had his share of injuries. They needed an extra body to go to Canada, so he's back with the team again. So from that perspective, I think it's good for him just to be around the veteran guys and to learn about life in the NHL, because it's not going to be very long before he's here as a full-time player. But on the flip side of that, you do want him to be playing games.
Sorry, I didn't turn my phone down.
Lou, you're such a pro. You just kept rolling right through that. You're such a pro.
Hello.
Randy's an important guy.
Answering the phone call right now?
Yeah, there's nobody there.
Oh my gosh, Randy. I'm sorry.
He's an important guy.
He's important. He is booked and busy, Lou, just like you are. I cannot believe
$5 fine for Randy.
Oh no. Yes, we need to do a fine for that. I wanted to ask you about Contreras, because I know that he's been skating with the team, and we're all waiting to see when exactly he will return. Looks like he could be good to go. Is there any sort of plan that you've heard of about when we could see him play?
Well, initially there, they obviously said, reevaluated in 6 weeks. And then Jim Montgomery makes the disclosure that he feels like it's going to be sooner than that. Well, I had a chance to talk to Colton Parayko before they left to go to Canada. He's feeling good. He feels like everything is on target. Do we know what the target is? Not quite yet. I think it's all about his mobility right now. Just getting that up to speed and getting that up to par. I asked Parayko just about specifically what is he looking for, and he did agree that the mobility part of it and just basically feeling better each time he goes out on the ice. There's a plan there in place. It's not necessarily going at the terms that he wants to go at. This is something that has been set forth by the medical and the training staff, and just increasing his elements little by little each time he steps out on the ice. And the good news is he's been able to skate every day, and he has increased little by little each and every day. Now, can he play Saturday? I don't think he's going to play tonight. Can he play Saturday? Possibly. Maybe by next Tuesday when they're back home for their season finale. I think if you ask him, I think he would like to play a game or two before the playoffs do begin. Do I feel like, is he going to be ready for the playoffs? Yes, I do. So that's the good news there. But there's still that unknown of exactly when he will be back.
Lou, as the Blues play at Edmonton tonight, 8:00 start or 9:00 start, the Flames will be playing at Anaheim at the same time. The Ducks have not had a good stretch lately, but it'd be nice for the Blues just to check that box of clinching a playoff spot, which they could do with a win and a Flames loss tonight.
Yeah, I think you're right, Randy. You just want to get the finality of it over with. You're down to 3 games left and you still haven't clinched. So there's still that little bit of unfamiliarity there, whether you're going to get in or not. So I don't want to be sitting here and talking, yes, there's going to be playoffs when we don't know yet. They had that opportunity the other night. Obviously, you ran into a really good Winnipeg Jets team. And let's face it, the Jets just played a good game. And then who did the Flames? Oh, the Flames had the Sharks. So, you had to have a couple of pieces fall into place there, a regulation win by the Blues and a regulation loss by the Flames. But, yeah, you want to get this over with as soon as possible, because I'll be honest with you, I really don't think they care who they play in the first round, whether it be you're going to get either Vegas or you're going to get Winnipeg. So you're going to get a good matchup. 2 contrasting styles of teams, but nonetheless, both very good. I think in a perfect world, maybe you'd like to get a Vegas just because it's not going to be as bruising and as punishing of a series. You saw how the Jets played the other night. Can you imagine 7 games of that? that's going to be, that's it. Almost reminded me, and I don't know, Randy, maybe you agree with me here or not. You remember that series back in 2019? That first round series with the Jets was about as bruising and punishing of a series as can be. That's what made that Stanley Cup run so impressive, that they were able to follow it up and say, all right, we got to do this 3 more rounds now. So you're going to get a lot more of that if you're playing the Winnipeg Jets. But yeah, in the grand scheme of things, you want to get this thing over with as soon as possible. I think if you do that, maybe Jim Montgomery looks at a couple of his players and says, hey, maybe you guys might want to take a step back, just get a little R&R and get ready for the playoffs.
It's amazing how many people associated with that 2019 team say now that once we beat Winnipeg, we knew that that was the most physical series we were going to play. And once we beat them, that gave us confidence that nobody was going to physically beat us. It was just now a matter of us winning the series. But they're just as physical now as they were then.
Yeah, they are. I mean, and Monday was a perfect example. And I think they're not only physical, but they've also got speed and skill on that team that I just don't recall having that kind of speed and skill on that team. I mean, I remember that team back then. I mean, you're talking about thumpers like Dustin Byfuglien that was playing in that series, and some other big guys that they really had. Yeah, Tyler Myers was on that team. I mean, you're talking about not just big guys, but guys with length as well. Well, you got that again. And I mean, you've got playmakers like guys like Josh Morrissey. That Logan Stanley's a big dude too. He reminds me a lot of a Tyler Myers back there. So, and obviously Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele, these guys are skilled guys that just have that much more experience. It would be tough to beat that team 4 times in a 7-game series. But you know what? You're going to have to play the best. You know how it is, Randy and Brooke. You guys see the Stanley Cup playoffs. I always say it's the hardest trophy in sport to win, and you got to run through the gauntlet to win this thing. And if you're going to play the good teams, you might as well get them right off the hop and just see how you fare against them.
Lou, I have one more question for you before we head out, because, of course, a lot of the players deserve a lot of credit for this 12-game win streak. But I think Robert Thomas has to be at the top of that list when you're giving out credit to guys, because the way that he has really just elevated his game, especially since coming out of that Four Nations break, has been remarkable to see. He was just named the NHL's 3rd star of the week, and rightfully so. What have you noticed from Robert Thomas coming out of that Four Nations break?
Well, he's taken games over. I think anytime the puck is on his stick, it's either a great scoring chance or the puck is in the net. I mean, 20 points in a 9-game point streak right now. What has he got? 4 goals, 16 assists, and 8 of those games are multi-assist games. It's pretty incredible. But you know what? Not only that, and I credit Jim Montgomery for pointing this out, as the way he's playing defensively as well. And he's going up. Not only is he putting the points up, but when he looks across the other end of the ice, the other night he's going against Mark Scheifele. On Saturday, he's going against Nathan McKinnon. And before, and on and on and on, he's going up against the other team's top players and doing a good job of limiting or shutting these guys down. So when you're able to when you're able to play at a peak level like that on both ends of the ice, people take notice of that. And is it fair to say this is the best stretch of his hockey career? Yeah, I think it really is. I mean, he's had, we obviously know how well he played throughout the year last year, but I think this is even a better mark for him just because, he had that fractured foot and had to miss a month and a half. And it was, coming back from that, it took a little bit of time. He did come out of that playing really well. Then he had a little bit of a lull, just like the rest of the team there in January, and he's really picked it up. I think he's number 1 in the league in points since February 1st. I mean, he's up there with the names like Kucherov and with McKinnon and those kind of guys. When you're in that kind of company, you're in elite company.
Lou, in 19 or 20, I asked Keith Tkachuk, I said, who is Robert Thomas going to be like when he reaches his peak? Without hesitation, Big Walt said, Patrice Bergeron. He's going to be the same guy. And Robert is 6'2", 207, Bergeron 6'1", 197. They play a very similar game. And I think Walt was right on when he made the comparison. When Robert reaches his peak, maybe even a little bit better offensively than Patrice Bergeron.
Yeah, that's a good comparison. And Randy, I'll be honest with you, when Robert Thomas came out of the league, and we've watched Patrice Bergeron, man. I mean, you're talking about in the Selke conversation year after year after year. I think you've got to start talking about Robert Thomas moving forward here in that conversation as well. I mean, like I said, when he's going up against the top guys and able to shut these guys down, that says something. And not only that, you're producing the way you're producing offensively, but yeah, that's a good comparison. And I can definitely see the same kinds of character traits there.
Okay, one last thing. We were talking about the 2019 Jets. Listen to this defense. Byfuglien 6'5", 260, Myers 6'8", 229, Sherratt 6'3", 224, Kulikov, 6'1", 212. Trouba, we forget he was on that team,
Yeah.
6'3" and 212. And then they also had who was there? They had another team. Oh, Bulio was only 6'2" and 200. That was a big team. Whew.
Yeah, you know what? It's crazy that now that you bring up Jacob Trouba, because boy, you've seen some of the hits that guy has laid on people over the years. He's a pretty stout dude and he might have been one of the smaller guys on that blue line back then. But yeah, think about that. But then again, wasn't he the guy too, Randy, that was in the corner that kind of helped produce that game winner by Schwartz right at the end and that 3-goal comeback too? So we can tie Jacob Trouba into that. But man, 6 game, and that was only a 6-game series too. And I remember the Blues coming out of that series thinking, wow, what do we have left now after exerting all the energy that they had to exert, winning the first 2 games, then losing 2, and then winning the next 2. Think about that. I don't know if you're going to get exactly the same if you're going to have to play the Winnipeg Jets in the first round again, but it's going to be very similar. And I think Monday served as a notice of exactly the kind of if Winnipeg brings that kind of a game in a 7-game series, man, that's going to be hard to beat.
I got to ask one more thing of both of you, because my partner on TV, Andrew Rogers, insists that Blues fans, if they face Vegas in the playoffs, will cheer Petro and Barbie. Do those guys get cheered during the playoffs here? I can't imagine.
Once you know what, they'll get cheered away from the rink maybe, and once before the games they'll get their recognition, and afterwards. But yeah, once it's a playoff series, I think it's game on. I think that's kind of a sentiment that you hear from the players as well. They'll always be cherished teammates, and they'll always care about each other off the ice. But once the puck drops, it's game on. And I think Blues fans will react accordingly as well. Now you're the enemy. You're not with us anymore. And yeah, I'm with you. I don't see cheering there.
No. So just an acknowledgement, like what you were saying, Lou, maybe at the beginning, but after that, I can't see ongoing cheers.
Yeah, we've been nice enough to them since they
was
left.
saying ongoing cheers, like if they scored on the Blues.
Yeah,
well, who would do that? I feel like you get kicked out of Enterprise Center if you did that.
Boo that.
Not a chance. Not a chance.
Yeah. Lou, we love your work at NHL.com. We always love having you on the show. Thanks so much for the time. Enjoy the Frozen Four this weekend, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, guys. Take care.
Thanks, brother. Lou Korac from NHL.com. Yeah, there's no way. And it's
so he was saying, like,
he thinks that they'll get like a courteous applause at the beginning. Well, those guys have both been back and played here. We've been courteous enough to them, but they're on the opposition now, so they get booed.
I don't even know if they'll get booed. You think they'll?
You think it'll just be benign neglect? We'll just say, "Who's that guy? You're somebody that I used to know."
Oh my gosh, Randy!
You think it'll be that way?
I can see like an acknowledgement at the beginning of the series, and maybe just that. But then past that point, I can't see people continuing to cheer on.
So it's be mean to those guys. They're we like them, yes, but the players aren't going to treat them nice.
No, that's the whole point.
Yeah,
that's the whole point.
Yeah, wakey, Petro.
Oh my gosh, he was the captain for when they won the Stanley Cup, though. So we were very appreciative. And
he still lives here during the summer. He lives out. They bought a house in Chesterfield.
Oh yeah, isn't his wife from St. Louis?
Yeah, she is.
Yeah. That's nice.
Nice guy. Yeah, he's one of my all-time favorite athletes because he listened to the show. No, he's a really nice guy, but he did listen to the show.
That is nice.
Yeah, he would always say, "Yeah, I listened to you until you start trying to talk hockey,"
and then turned it off.
Press the button. No, I love Petro. You know what else I love is the opportunity to choose players and figure out who the best player on a particular evening is going to be. And baseball season is officially underway here, and it's time to step up to the plate with DraftKings Pick 6. If you haven't played it yet, you need to. You need to download the app and think of Pick 6 as your fastball right down the middle. It's the easiest way to play for cash and take a shot at a big win. Just select 2 or more players and choose if they'll have more or less of a stat. Pick 6 is available in most states, including California and Texas, Georgia, Missouri, and more. Cash in your baseball knowledge. New players get $50 in Pick 6 credits instantly on just a $5 entry. So download the DraftKings Pick 6 app and use the code STL Sports. That's STL Sports for new customers to play $5 and get 50 in Pick 6 credits. Better payouts, bigger wins, only with Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
And now it's time for the Grim Report.
Should it be the Grim Report or the Grim Rapport? Should the T be silent? You can do whatever. It's yours.
Yeah.
Own it a little bit. You can do whatever you want.
Rockio said it's Grim Report. It's Grim. I can hear him saying that under his breath.
Well, it wouldn't be a rapport because there's no pun.
It's the French.
Yeah, but it was because
Colbert.
It was because Colbert had the silent T.
All right.
Because of the French factor.
So we need to add a T to GRI.
Yeah, it would have to be the Grim Rapport, but Grim would have to be spelled GRIMT.
Okay, fair
which
enough.
I'm for, but I mean, Brooke's got to change her name once.
Yeah,
That's a lot.
Changing it multiple times, that's difficult.
Yeah,
so it's the
very
Grim Report.
difficult. Yeah, I already went through the name change process, and that's a process.
Is it a hassle?
It's a big hassle. I will say that. Yeah,
Okay.
after you get married, and if you choose to do that, it is a giant hassle.
So there was a pitcher for the Cardinals that they traded for George Hendrick. When he was here the first time, his name was Harry Rasmussen. Traded him in 1978 for George Hendrick. In the interim, while he was gone, he changed his first name to Eric. He legally changed his name to Eric. So when he came back to the Cardinals in 1982, he was Eric Rasmussen.
What?
I don't know why he changed from Harry to Eric, but he did.
What?
He did. Seriously.
Why?
I don't
There was no explanation.
Well,
This entire time, I've been looking at the different pages in Baseball Reference for the 80s Cardinals and thought they were two different players.
no, same guy.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
You
Isn't that
just
wild?
felt like it.
This is where we miss Rick Hummel because I wasn't doing. I was too young. I was in college when he came back, so I don't know. I don't know why.
I didn't know if Rick did a whole expose on this.
No, it was just weird that he left as Harry and came back as Eric.
If you could change your name, what would you change it to?
Oh,
First
this is
name.
a good one.
And then we'll get to the Grim Report.
Okay. This is good.
I never felt like I've been a Brooke
Really?
personally. No,
I think you're the quintessential Brooke.
a babbling Brooke. I always hated
No,
hearing
Brookie.
that when I was younger.
Your phone
When
on the back of your
Yeah.
phone it says Brookie. You're
It
like
does.
Brookie to me.
Yeah, but when I was younger, I was like, babbling Brooke, because that's what my name means.
Mhm.
And so I absolutely hated that. And then, of course, I pursue a career where I yap a lot.
So
So it kind of fit there.
Yeah. Before I was born, the debate between my parents was Randy and Jeff. They were thinking I'm not a
You're
Jeff.
not a Jeff.
Okay, good.
I don't know why, but you're just not a Jeff. Matthew, is he a Matthew? I feel like Rockio fits you.
Matthew is.
I don't know
good,
why,
yeah.
but
Matthew's
Rockio
good.
fits you.
And you know what? You prefer Matthew to Matt, correct?
Yeah, I hit like 30 and Matt just sounded like a little kid. But like to Brooke's point, it sounds weird that I'm adult, but I'm still in because the majority of my life, the most people in my sphere have just called me by my last name.
Rocky.
It's been Rockio since I was about 11 through about 28. It's just solid 17 years of everybody in my life calling me only by my last name. I had friends who didn't know what my first name was, who when my parents would call me by my first name, they would look at me and be like, I definitely completely forgot what your first name was. I had a friend who thought I had a friend for 3 years, the first 3 years of my life. He never met my parents. He thought my first name was Rockio.
It fits you for
when
some
my
reason.
parents
I don't know
walked into the
why.
room one time, another one of my friend goes, "Oh, Mr. and Mrs. Rockio are here." He turns to me, a look on his face of pure, just, oh my God. He just goes, "Oh, that's your last name. That makes more sense." Apparently he'd been sitting there for 3
so
years of knowing
funny.
me, wanting to ask me, why is your first name so weird? Never got up the courage and had that moment, he had his mind blown. Yeah, if I could go the rest of my life being known by everybody except for maybe my girlfriend as Rockio, I would be happy.
Okay. Does she call you Matt or Matthew? Or
She
babe?
calls me Matthew.
Okay.
And a lot of
Or-
nicknames.
Oh, now we have to know the nicknames that Rachel
No, you
calls.
don't.
I bet it's like sweet pea or something like that.
So how about like, what if we were Brooke and Brooke? What if I was a male Brooke Karraker?
I've seen more male Brooks than Brooke.
But without the E, right?
Yeah, I've seen
Somebody
a lot
hasn't
more
bought
male
furniture in
Brooks.
St. Louis. It's a Brooke Dubman reference.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
right.
Yeah, I didn't
Because you
know.
like nice things. Okay, let's get
Yeah,
to the
we
Grim
want
Report.
nicknames. Yes, I agree. This could be Ben says we want nicknames. Let's Turn 2 says you don't know why. He was Harry Rass.
Oh.
Uh,
Got it.
okay, yeah. I would change my name to Randy Grimsley. There you go. That's a very strong, very, very strong name. Now we're going to get into Grim Report finally. Sorry, it took us a minute there. But it is Masters Week. Randy, I know that you love Masters
Love the
Week.
Masters, yeah.
Love Masters Week, where you get to see everybody in Augusta and everything is very fancy and the menu prices are fantastic there. But
Great.
people right now are talking about if the players should be required to speak to the media. So I don't know if you guys saw this, but recently those talking points reemerged when Colin Morikawa, fresh off a heartbreaking loss in the Arnold Palmer Invitational, opted not to speak with the media. In defending his decision, Morikawa said he doesn't owe anyone anything. So that has caused a lot of controversy, and Rory McIlroy was asked about his thoughts on that, if the players should be required to speak to the media. And we're pulling that up right meow.
Right meow.
Right now.
No.
Ow.
Colin Morikawa caught some criticism at the players for saying he owes the media nothing after he left Bay Hill early. You obviously caught some heat too after doing that at Pinehurst. The conversation after situations like that sometimes is, in comparison to other professional athletes, golfers can be a little more sensitive. I'm wondering if you think that's a fair or unfair assessment.
Well, he's right. Not that I think he could have worded it a little bit better, but look, every other athlete, whether it be in the NBA, NFL, they're obligated to speak to you guys after a game. We're not. So, you know, whether that's something that the PGA Tour looks to in terms of putting that into their rules and regulations, but as long as that's not the case, and we have that option to opt out whenever we want, you know, expect guys to do that.
So he's not wrong. It's not a requirement for the PGA players to speak to the media right after an event. If they lose, whatever happens, it's not a requirement. But the bigger question has come out where people see it as a little bit of entitlement, or if you're wanting to grow the game, and to his own point, you see all the other leagues require their players to speak to the media afterwards. And this is, I want to make this clear, because sometimes when we say speaking to the media, it makes it seem like, oh, well, the media thinks that they're entitled to these players. The media is just a vessel to get the word out or perspective to the people, right? That's the only job of the media. That's our only job, is to be able to get that information out to the people, to the fans. And so I see the media more as a vessel to fans rather than you need to speak to us.
Mm-hmm. I can see, and Tiger has done this a couple of times, if a player is injured leaving, or if a player just plays terrible. But I think Tiger actually, I think there was one time where he played terrible and didn't talk to the media, but he understands his place in the sport. So does Rory McIlroy. So should Colin Morikawa. The fact of the matter is, the reason that those guys are making so much money on the PGA Tour is because people are paying to see them or to watch them on TV. And for me, it's just a matter of maturity and class. For as many tough finishes as Rory McIlroy has had in his career, I don't recall him ever opting out, as he called it, of talking to the media. And I don't think that Colin Morikawa should either. I get Colin Morikawa appears to be a really smart, thoughtful guy. But golf is not a game of letting your emotions get away from you. And it sounds like that's what he did.
Yeah, especially the comments afterwards of that he doesn't owe anyone anything.
He does. Yeah.
Well, because it is the fans. It's about the fans at the end of the day. And also, I understand golf is such a mental game. And I'm not taking away anything about what they're able to do physically, but it's such a mental game. So I understand that weighs on them a lot more. But I think that it also shows a lot of mental fortitude that you're able to speak afterwards, after a tough loss
Right.
or a tough situation.
Yeah, and
Because you get to control the narrative.
As much of a villain as Phil Mickelson has become now, look at all of the tough U.S. Open finishes that he had, but he always spoke to the media. Here's another thing about Colin Morikawa saying that he doesn't owe anybody anything. What about Adidas? What about TaylorMade? What about the people that are sponsoring him and he's wearing the gear of? It's not incumbent upon him to get that gear on camera for them?
Yes.
I'm just coming at this as I can have the worst day of my life playing basketball, and I will walk off that court not 1/10 as angry as I will be after 2 bad holes of golf. So I think there's a little thing here. It's like, yeah, football players and baseball players have to come talk to the media after a game, but nothing compares to 4 hours of having to play 18 holes of golf, even if you're great at that game. The amount of aggravation of just, no, I did everything 99% right, but because of the 1%, the ball went 94 yards to the right. That never happens in basketball. At no point is LeBron James taking a shot and the ball has gone 16 feet to the right of where he was aiming. It never happens. The frustration factor of golf, I kind of understand. I don't want to talk to the media after that if I'm those guys either. I'm pretty pissed off. I just had to put everything within a centimeter window or else my entire day is ruined. I kind of get it.
Well, you can be mad, but you also have to understand the responsibility. If you don't want to communicate with your fans, then maybe you're in the wrong business.
Yes. And you have, as you mentioned, those sponsors. Ralph says the media helps. Oopsies, it went away. Where'd it go? Oh, no, I don't see it anymore. It disappeared. The media helps the game. It serves the team, players, organization for people to talk to them.
It does.
It does.
Yep. Thank you, Ralph.
I agree with that. I think it's just more about showing, and you don't even have to expand. I mean, we see it with the NFL and NBA. It's some of those media sessions aren't exactly the best after a game or after a loss, but I think that you still have that responsibility. If you say you want to grow the game, that's one aspect of it, is being available for those media interviews.
And I think this is, and Rory talked about the PGA Tour. I think one of the issues that we have is in all sports is that players aren't told what the job of the media is. They don't understand that they can talk to their fans. And now many of them do control their narrative and do a really good job through social media. But when the media comes into the clubhouse or locker room or dressing room after a game, they can explain to their fans what happened. I've always thought that my job I'm an audio columnist. My job is to explain what the players say happened. So my big question when I go in is why? Why is this happening? So that the next day I can come on the air and talk to you guys about what they said happened, why things are happening. And I think that's a good way to explain to athletes what the job of the media is. Tell them why.
Exactly. And I think the PR staff could do that too. And I don't know how much PR is involved, if they have their individual PR people with golf or if there's kind of a group of PR people that probably are more on the master side rather than the player side of things. But to your point, you get to control your own narrative. So if something happens, something controversy happened, if you're able to speak to the media, you get to control your own narrative instead of people creating a narrative for you. I also say this too about a lot of the players, the ones who are the most vocal and speak to the media, it gives you other money avenues too. Yeah. All of a sudden you're in more ads, more people want to work with you. I mean, look at Lars Nootbaar is just like an example I can think of currently, where a lot of people have beat up on him, and rightly so, where he hasn't been available a lot in recent years. But look at how much advertising that he's involved in locally, nationally, and internationally. It's not like he's a superstar player currently. It's because he has a great personality and speaks to the media. I think that it can actually help you, because right now, for any sport, playing time can be finicky. You never know how much money you're going to make. You might blow through some of your money. So to have other avenues where if you can show, like, I can speak to the media, I can handle myself in that situation, it's more possible advertisement revenue for you.
And look at people that are doing TV with the Cardinals right now. Look at Brad Thompson, who I think he'll tell you, he wasn't Greg Maddux. Had a good career, but not a great career, but he's making a living now doing TV. Mark Sweeney, Same thing.
Mhm.
A guy like Tom Pagnazzi is same thing. I think there is something to be said for the lesser players. Now, Colin Morikawa, he might not need the money, but I would think that his advisors should probably go to him and say, look, if we want to have these sponsorships and we're going to take the money from these sponsorships, then we should probably do everything we can to keep them happy.
Exactly. So, Masters Week, we already had some drama to kick things off, but either way, I love Masters Week. Do you guys have your pick of who's going to win it? What are the odds for that? Is it Scheffler leading currently right now?
Yeah, Scheffler will be he is the betting favorite, the heavy.
Rory has to be up there, though.
Yeah, Rory's right there. Scheffler and Rory are 1-2, and it's pretty decided. I've got. I think the reason this golfer was so upset is that he saw two big, fat, naked bikers in the woods off 17 having sex. How's he supposed to chip with that going on?
Wait, what?
That's a great point, and that's something that Augusta they need to get a hold of.
Wait, am I missing something?
Happy Gilmore 2 in theaters soon.
Yeah.
That is one of the ellipsis. You might not have good taste in food, but great taste in
Happy
movie quotes.
Gilmore reference.
Incredible
yes.
Happy Gilmore reference.
Is that coming out soon? The Happy Gilmore 2, or are they filming it?
I think it's this summer.
Is it coming out this summer?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Is it? Because I remember them talking about filming it.
Yeah, we'll get a date apparently.
Ooh, I'm going for my birthday. Initial release is July 25th, 2025.
Nice.
There we go.
Perfect. What a birthday present.
Yeah, right. Let's go.
Yes. So that is the Grim Report for Masters Week.
I think that's great. By the way, I am picking Brooks Koepka as my winner because the only time he plays is when I'm watching him on TV. So nobody's watching him on Live. I know that. So he doesn't get many opportunities. So I'm going to go with Brooks because he's almost got the same name as Brooke. How about you? Who are you picking?
There's part of me that wants to go with Rory, actually.
I think he would be my sentimental favorite.
Yeah.
But for some reason, because everything is pointing to him, it feels like it's not going to happen.
Yeah, it goes that way.
Yeah,
typically more than half the time.
And Scheffler is just so good. He'll be in the hunt,
mm-hmm.
but I don't know. How about you, Matthew? Who do you have? DeChambeau?
Big DeChambeau guy over there.
I'm going to take. I had Echevarria. What is he going off at right now? Masters. I put in.
Sounds like pretty
Masters DraftKings.
Echevarria.
I put in a fantasy or a play at DraftKings when I was there over on the other side of the river on him, and I'm trying to find out what the number was. See if I can find my slip on the internet. Do I have my slip in front of me? Where'd it go? Yeah, he played really. He's one of those guys who Nico Echevarria. He had top 15 finishes in like these last 3 tournaments leading up to the Masters, and there's a crazy amount of causation and correlation between these last couple tournaments having success in them leading up to the Masters usually populates the board pretty well. So he's not going to win, but I have him to kind of finish higher than he's projected, and I'll be able to take home some winnings. But that's my deep cut right now is Nico Echevarria.
I like it. Hey, Brooke, did you know that Jordan Tiamu is going to be in town with the Defenders this week?
Oh, throwback.
Yeah, and Sports Hub STL is excited to announce that we've got Battlehawks programming and post-game shows after each game this season. Battlehawks coverage is brought to you by Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken. With the new Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken Battlehawks box, you can score up to 30% off Battlehawks tickets, plus get 4 of their famous breast strips and a side of potato wedges for just $8.99. What a deal that is. Only at Lee's Famous for Chicken. And you are logged in to Sports Hub STL presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Now, we were going to do something different, overarching, but then I realized that today's Wednesday, so it's Uncle Randy.
Oh, are we going to do Uncle Randy Day?
Yeah, we could save the other topic for another day. Okay. Why? Were you like fired up to go with my big question that I had?
I thought it was really good. I was not prepared for asking Uncle Randy today. That's my thing. I didn't prepare for asking Uncle Randy.
Ask Uncle Randy that question, but we could save it for tomorrow because today is Uncle Randy. What do you guys feel about it? We could do whatever we want. This is Randy's show, featuring the other people.
You guys seemed pretty offended by my answer to this question, so I don't even know.
You can't say it.
It's the internet, Brooke.
It's the internet.
Of course we can say it.
Oh my
Alex
God.
Stone gets away with everything he says on the internet. Well, not everything, I guess.
Oh, No. But it is Wednesday, so you can ask Uncle Randy any question. He always, he's dying for some sort of love question. So if you can throw one of those our way, we would like to have that one.
We'll wait till we get hit with a love question. I have a question for Uncle Randy right now. Are you worried about the labor situation in Major League Baseball?
Oh, yeah. After 2026?
And just kind of we threw out Jackson Merrill is apparently had a tiff with the players union. They didn't want him to sign his extension. Obviously he did. And I mean, there's every marker seems like we're on the way to some kind of work stoppage, whether it's a lockout, a strike, what have you.
Yeah. And I get the sense that Major League Baseball management people are tired of Scott Boras. And I think they might want to just beat him because he's basically the guy that's overseeing the union. I find it very interesting that a team like the Atlanta Braves, apparently they don't have a single Scott Boras client on their team for all of the great players that he has.
Really?
Yeah. And so I think that's a concern. And Boras guys obviously are the guys that are against a cap, right? When you have Juan Soto, when you have Max Scherzer, who has been heavily involved with the union, when you have all these high-priced players, Scott Boras does, he doesn't want a salary cap. And I think that's going to be a real issue in December of 2026 and beyond. And the players have been so stridently against a cap and a floor. I think the owners finally, because of what's happened with the Dodgers, are finally going to say, you know what, we'll just shut this baby down until we get what we want.
I really think, and I do not want to lock out whatsoever. I think that you need to have a salary floor and cap. And I've said this plenty of times before, but I think this will help if we're looking at finding ways to grow the game. I think this is one of the best ways. I saw somebody comment earlier in the chat about how Pirates fans aren't showing up because they're frustrated with Pirates ownership. And there's a lot of other fans that feel that way. Cardinals fans are upset with the DeWitts because payroll is going down, even though they're investing in development, which is fantastic. I know a lot of fans are upset with the ownership group for the Cardinals because payroll is going down. The Cubs, even their fans are upset because their payroll is going down too, because all the teams can say, well, how are we going to beat the Dodgers? It's impossible to keep up with them. So why are we going to put all this money in the payroll? That's such an alienating subject to say. Payroll is a big issue that we're seeing, and you can eliminate a lot of that conversation by having a salary cap and floor.
Okay, if the Cardinals would increase their payroll, do you think that would enhance ticket sales? And as an addendum to this, because the Giants increased payroll, right? They gave Chapman the big contract last year, the extension. They signed Willie Adames during the offseason. They had Snell for a while. They tried for Corbin Burns. So they've either spent or tried to spend money. But the other thing they did in San Francisco and sold out their first 3 home games, and then it kind of fell off last couple of nights. But they hired one of their biggest stars as their president of baseball operations.
Yeah.
And we've talked a lot about Albert. Do you think Albert would make that much of a difference in attendance if he were the manager?
If he was the manager, I think that it would. I think it would initially get some butts and seats. But who are the players that he's managing would be my question. Is there some superstars in the mix? Is there a free agency splash or two? Would that be part of the equation?
I don't think so.
So then it would just be this kind of same concept of payroll with Albert managing
until the attendance came back because of him.
I think it would help. I don't think that it would hurt anything, but I think that it's more about the team not dipping their feet into the waters of free agency as much anymore. But then again, that frustrated people too, because then it wasn't the proper money that was spent on free agency.
And I don't think there should be a debate within the walls of the Cardinals front office about signing a guy like Mason Wynn to that Jackson Merrill type extension. I think that the Cardinals should do everything they can to get a couple of their young guys under contract. We talked about that, but I just really feel strongly that before those players get to 6 years and a free agency, the Cardinals should buy out a year or two of that free agency.
Yeah. Eric Cleveland says, Uncle Randy, NFL team in Toronto or London first?
Toronto. I don't think we'll ever see a team in London unless there's multiple teams in Europe. And the reason for that is the time change.
Yeah.
If that team was ever, well, number one, you can't play primetime games there. You can't play games that are 7 o'clock in America because that's 3 a.m. there. And you could never play a Super Bowl there. unless the Super Bowl started. Let's see, if it starts at 5 here, that's 11 in the morning there. So maybe it started at 7 here. It's still 1 in the afternoon there. I think that, or no, that's right. Yeah, 1 o'clock here would be 7 o'clock there. So it'd be hard to play a Super Bowl in London. I just think there's so many problems associated not only with the time difference, but we aren't getting along very well with Europe right now either. So I see Toronto as more of a possibility than I do London.
I could too. Do you think the NFL would maybe start their own version of the NFL overseas? Maybe that would be more of a possibility.
They had the World League of American Football and then NFL Europe.
Yeah,
that's where Kurt Warner came from, and it didn't draw well enough or make him enough money. Maybe now though, because it is such a global sport, they'll be able to do it.
That's what I was thinking, is that now you could revisit that.
There used to be an agreement that the NFL would not go into Canada. I think that agreement's gone by the boards to protect the CFL. But Toronto, if it were part of America, would be the 4th largest market. So it'd be a great market to go into.
If it was a part of America.
Well, okay, when it becomes part of America.
When inevitably that it does. Will Greenland have a team too?
I hope so.
That would be, man, can you imagine? The players would be pissed if they had to go over
so would
there.
the Packers.
Yeah, that's true.
Isn't that kind of a trademark thing?
Yeah, they would be. Yeah.
Greenland or Green Bay? I'm confused.
It would be pretty confusing. There was another one here. Cole Bassett's left foot. Okay. Uncle Randy, St. Louis City seems to have stalled out. Is it time for Lutz Pfannenstiel to move on?
Oh, that's a great question. And the sense I get, not being close to the city situation, is that when they brought in Diego and when they made the coaching changes, they weren't happy with the people that Lutz had put in place. And ultimately, if you get rid of or supplant his players and his coaches, then what is the reason for him? I wonder how much power he has within the organization right now. So I would say that, if something is not working, and it didn't work in year 2 and clearly is not working now, that in most sports organizations, a change would be made. Yeah.
Yeah. It just seems like there's been something constantly going on behind the scenes there.
Right.
Doesn't it?
Well, and this is my own personal opinion, and I know there's soccer people in that agree with me. St. Louis soccer people, dyed-in-the-wool soccer people that agree with me that it is a problem to not have an American presence either in the front office, in the coaching box, or on the field. They really don't. And
Yeah.
I think a St. Louis presence would be a big boon for St. Louis City SC.
Not a ton of St. Louis guys have been available. It's only your 3rd year. And it's not like
I heard that they were interviewing Dan Flynn, and he did not.
Yeah, they might have been
did not go well.
Yeah, they might have been interviewing an American or a coach with St. Louis ties, but there's a lot more going into the coaching aspect and the team building aspect and what went into the hiring of Olaf that I think people being bothered that there's a non-American coach. You want the best people for the job.
If you're not going to have an American coach, you better have a guy that wins.
Yeah.
And scores a goal or two.
That would help. That would help. I think it's interesting though. Comparing last year and this year, through 8 games, they have the exact, or through 7 games, they have the same amount of points, 8, and they have the exact same goal differential, 0. Last year, they won 1 less game in the first 8, had a couple more draws, and scored a lot more goals. They also allowed a lot more goals, and were stuck in draws and didn't get that second win for a very long time. And so I think we're dealing with fans, in my opinion, who are in the 3rd year, and because of the fact that everything behind them is so short, they cannot look into the future any further. This is a short-sighted fan base right now. To be freaking out 7 games into year 3 under a new coach who's having to shift some things and dealing with a lot of injuries while he's having to do it, that's ridiculous. Bradley Carnell didn't get any didn't get much of a leash because of the injuries, and I thought he maybe should have. But the difference there is that he had an offseason to prepare a very similar roster, and they failed to hit the ground running. Olof hasn't had that amount of time with this team the way Bradley did, and so I think it's completely fair to give him a little bit more time before decisions are made.
There's no doubt that he, the coach, deserves and will get more time. But I don't think, and this is just totally from a fan's perspective, I don't think that last year should be a bar for St. Louis City SC. I think it should be much higher than what last year delivered.
Yeah.
I agree, but I'm just saying is there's a lot of similarities, but there's a big difference into the fact that one of them is a brand new coach who hasn't had any time to work with the team before injuries just decimated what his plan was. And that's a big factor. These next 4 games are huge. They're against great teams. And if they can walk away with some points, whether it is just from some draws, I think that'll change the way people perceive this, because it hasn't been the numbers haven't been great, but I still think there's a lot more there than what they've shown so far. And so I think pulling the trigger now or soon on either Lutz or Olof would be unwise. To Shooter's point, get a coach that can get wins. City is boring. This is not the kind of style you want in year 3. My whole thing, the reason why I was so happy in year 1 is that the only type of soccer, in my opinion, that casual fans can enjoy is high pressing, high octane soccer. Now, soccer fans themselves, they hate it. They call it energy drink football, and they think it's an abomination. I think that's a stupid criticism. It was a fun style to watch. To that point, Olof, yesterday when we were interviewing him, said that, and this is his quote, take it for what you will, based on what you've seen, he said he likes high pressing and high octane soccer.
Oh, sorry.
We haven't got to see it yet, but if that's there, I'd love to see it.
Okay.
That's the kind of soccer that fans want to see here.
Yes.
That's for sure.
One other question. Okay. If he likes high octane soccer, and I don't doubt that he likes high octane soccer. So we have at the moment 2 wins, 2 draws, 3 losses, right? And we've been involved in multiple 1-score games, right?
All of them, 5 of the 7, I believe.
How many times has he pulled the goalie?
Or less. How is it?
If we want to see high octane.
He has not. He has failed to pull the goalie a single time. How dare he?
Yep. Last night, the Vancouver Canucks scored 3 empty net goals in the final minute by pulling the goalie.
Yes, very similar.
I was so unprepared.
I did not.
The problem is we talked about soccer for longer than 3 minutes seriously, and so I got lulled into this sense of security that it was going to be a completely serious question, and then Randy just ripped the rug out from under me.
Brian Ellison says, after watching the Premier League, the MLS is hard to watch. Yeah, that's fair.
But is college football harder to watch than the NFL? Yeah, less talented players playing in totality is not as clean of a game. But there's a lot of people.
That's the thing. The college game is clean.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
No, it's not.
The officiating is better, less penalties. It's much smoother.
But the actual action.
The SEC,
I'm just saying,
it just matters.
It does. But at no point, unless like Aiden O'Connell's getting the start again, you're not going to turn on an NFL game and watch a quarterback duck a 7-yard slant. You will watch that in college football all Saturday. You will watch a quarterback completely just blow trying to throw a bubble screen. He'll just put it into the dirt. You don't see that in the NFL. And that's what he's talking about. He's talking about the skill level of the Premier League, being unable to watch the MLS afterwards. And I just think it's a ridiculous criticism for a worldwide sport where every single tournament is played at a slightly different level of competition, and they all get watched.
Well, let me ask this question.
Go for it.
I want to be completely fair.
You're not going to do that, are you?
No.
If they weren't so cheap and they went and signed Mbappe, would they be better?
To sign Mbappe, they would have had to sell the stadium. Where would they have played without the stadium?
Well, they would have had the stadium. They got money.
They have to sell to get Mbappe. They have to sell the stadium. They would have had to sell the yards to get Mbappe.
Yeah, how much do you think the arch is?
How much does Mbappe make?
Mbappe, I think he makes 70 million a year in American after you transfer it.
Okay,
I want to say,
doesn't the Taylor family have like 13 billion?
Yeah, but that's not the operating costs of their franchise.
Well, maybe it should be.
Are you running the books for the DeWitts now too?
Yeah.
God, we're gonna be so good.
60 or 70 million a year. It's a drop in the bucket.
I mean, I just think that
So
if
we
you're
could-
really going to drop in here
we
and
could
complain
afford
about the
awareness.
MLS not being as watchable as the Premier League, you're not adding anything to the conversation. You're just being a troll. Yeah,
I
of
am.
course the Premier League's better than the MLS.
It is.
What else do you want? But
Harry Kane.
that's one league you're watching. There's 211 in the world. Are you watching any other one other than the MLS over that? Are you really watching League One? Are you watching Serie A? Are you watching Bundesliga? Come on now.
I just want to see more goals. That's all. That's all.
No, and I agree with you. I would love that as well. But we're 6 months, 8 months removed from the entirety of the St. Louis soccer fandom complaining. Let me change it. Bitching that this team has no defense. This team gets scored on easily. There is no defensive system or anything like that. And yet all we have now is one of the best defensive systems in the league through 7 games. Yeah, you go ahead. I don't care. We have one of the best. They have one of the best defenses in the league, and no City fan wants to give them any credit. Now it's 100% just bitching about the offense. It's just shifting wildly from one side to the other side.
If they didn't play that 5-4-1,
I'm so proud of you right now.
thank you.
So
Would
proud of
their
you.
He's gonna
offense be
draw you
better?
back into something.
No, because it doesn't matter what position you're on the field. If the players cannot control the ball inside the final third, doesn't matter. If every time this team gets the ball inside the box, they screw it up.
Okay.
And it doesn't matter if you have 5 guys in the box or 4, or if you're starting with 5
That's
guys in the back
expensive,
line and
though.
ending up with 7 in the box. The bottom line is this team is
And what are they
useless
doing
when they
eating
get the ball in the
burgers
box.
during a game?
So they got to execute. That's the bottom line.
What are they
Execute
doing,
and
eating
finish.
burgers or the
He said that if you have 5 guys in the box, you get in the box. you get
Oh,
5
come
guys.
on. No. You can't see because Rocco
that in
refuses
the
to put
bubble.
himself in the bubble. It's too late to put yourself in the bubble.
It's a good thing we're not talking about
It's too late.
football. Well, you're going to turn 8-man in the box into a joke.
Now I want 5 guys burger. So there's that.
I would love to put 5 guys in my mouth right now.
Cole Bassett's left foot says St. Louis needs
A
to scout
burger.
the Argentinian soccer teams for
Rocco,
talent.
how did you not
Argentinians
like
translate
it?
well with MLS play.
True.
I'm ignoring
Yeah.
what happened.
Please clip that.
I would have loved if City hit the ground and part of their goal was we're going to sign as many South Americans as we can. It's what Atlanta United did when they hit the ground
Yep.
running, and I would have loved it. Unfortunately, we have Lutz, and Lutz has decided the Nordic leagues and second Bundesliga is where he's going to pull teams from. Listen, find your niche and pull talented players from it. I don't really care where the niche is, and they've done that. I don't care what anybody says. Conrad Wallum, Rasmus Alm, Joachim Nielsen, Marcel Hartl. They found talent at all of those levels, and so Lutz has got his little pocket figured out. Figure another player out here before the end of April and the transfer window closes, and we'll be all fine.
All right. I like Walt Mosby's chat here. At 72 years, what do we call these? Tweets? Chats?
Yeah, YouTube chat.
At 72 years old, I've never gone to a baseball game to see a manager make decisions. Also, no on spending more dollars. Mo is still the decision maker. Enough said. I think that like people, when Charlie Spoonar was the head coach at St. Louis U, I think people went to see Spoonball. I think people liked seeing Whitey manage. Now, I get that you didn't, but I guess what happens is if you have a good manager, he's going to win, and that's going to bring you to the ballpark. But I do think that there is an element, a subsection of the fan base that would go to see Albert Pujols. I'm not saying that it would.
100%. Yeah.
I'm not saying that it'd increase attendance by 500,000. But I
No.
think that there are people that would go and say, hey, let's watch the Cardinals. Albert is in uniform tonight.
100% they would. Yeah. I think they would.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't think there's any doubt that when Tony came here in 96, that was a big deal. And now he brought in a lot of players with him, but
Mhm.
Tony had a ton of success in Oakland. And I think people said, hey, let's go watch Tony La Russa's team play.
Yeah, you want to see that.
Yeah.
I think that especially with a player like Albert, or even if it was Yachty, that people would show up to see them manage.
Okay. Ellipse 150 has a food take for us. Bagels are highly overrated. I don't think they're that good.
I think they're okay. I'm not like the biggest
Okay.
bagel fan, so I could understand what Ellipsis is saying here.
Okay, like it's not a be all end all for me. So if somebody thinks that they are, then by definition they would be overrated because I agree with you. However, that being said, going to Breadco and getting a bread sliced cinnamon crunch bagel with
Those are
regular
good.
cream cheese. But now you got to get it bread sliced because if you get it regularly sliced, you miss half of your cinnamon. You get a bread slice with every single bite you take, you're getting cinnamon crunch.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah, me too. It's good. So thank you very much for the food take. Ghostface Gaming gives us a Skipper Pujols and then praying emoji. He wants it.
Does Ellipsis eat any food? Ellipsis does have some strong food
He
takes.
does, yeah.
And we appreciate that.
Okay, Uncle Randy, this is from This Could Be Ben. STL, New York City, Chicago, or Detroit pizza.
Ooh.
This is interesting. Okay, so I think
Chicago's on the bottom.
okay, so I disagree.
Really?
But here's
But
the
that's
thing.
like a giant piece of pie, like almost
It's
like
great.
lasagna light.
But here's the thing: it's still great, but it's not great all the time. So if I could only have one type of pizza, and this would be it, it'd be New York style. So,
I do like New York style. I like the thin, that it's not
Yep.
too
but
thin.
it's big slices, and it's really, really good.
Yeah.
So my number 2 in the power rankings, I'm going to go Chicago 4 in my power rankings.
Okay.
My number 2 is going to be probably Detroit. Okay. And then 3 St. Louis, 4 Chicago. But that doesn't mean that I dislike St. Louis or Chicago. I just don't eat them as often. It's more of a special occasion type pizza.
Mhm.
But I could eat New York style pizza every day.
I could too. I think that if you're just getting like a good pizza, like New York style for me, and then I might say Detroit because even though it's opposite of that, I kind of like, and it's called Motortown Pizza, I think, here in town. I don't know if you guys have had it. And I'm saying like St. Louis has a good Detroit style pizza, but it is actually really good. And then
I think
St. Louis
Jets might have Detroit, right?
I like if it's done right, it's done really well.
Matthew,
And
you need to weigh in here.
and then I would put St. Louis, and then Chicago would
There
be
we go.
bottom for me.
So we're the same. boat.
Yes.
I just every time Ellipsis 150 finds a way to just baffle me with a text during
Baffling.
these food things. I haven't tried New York City style. I would like to. How have you not ever tried New York style?
question.
It's the most ubiquitous style of pizza in America, I would argue.
Certainly Raccanelli's, right? New York.
Yeah, I would just argue that like regular, not super thin crust with a little bit of puff, but just like a regular pie, not super thin again, not super thick. That's just like hand tossed is the most ubiquitous kind of pizza in America.
Have you guys ever been to La Pizza?
It's so good.
La
Pizza.
Pizza.
Oh my God.
It's on Del Mar. in
Yeah,
New York City.
and my problem with La Pizza, I love them. My issue is my girlfriend works very close to La Pizza, but she gets off work after 5 p.m. La Pizza runs out fast because it's so good.
I
It's
don't
great.
think that I've had
Oh,
La Pizza
Brooke.
before.
La Pizza is, and it's
Where is
New
this
York
at?
style pizza.
Change it. It's on Del Mar, north.
Okay,
It would be
I'm looking it
west,
up right now.
west of the Loop,
Yeah.
Okay.
up towards almost Ladue.
And they're open right now, is what you're telling me.
I think they should.
It's
I
great.
think they probably
Yeah,
open
they probably
early in the afternoon because it's one of those things where they get there and they make pizza until they run out of that day's worth of ingredients. And then when they run out of that day's worth of ingredients, they're done. And sometimes they can run out at before 5 p.m. Sometimes they can last till 7. But it's kind of you got to hit the target there. It's, in my opinion, it's my top 2 alongside Pizza Go-Go because I love New York style pizza, and Pizza Go-Go down in South City and La Pizza, in my opinion, have the best
Very
hand toss New York City style in St. Louis.
Walt Mosby points out that it's game time. See you tomorrow, Walt. Thank you very much for tuning in. We will see you tomorrow. Cole Bassett's left foot. Girolamo Pizzeria in Nashville, Illinois. Superb. Never
I've
been
heard
there.
of it. I've heard of it.
Okay. Is that correct? Or is it Girolamo?
I think it's Girolamo.
Girolamo? Okay.
I think the silent G is more Greek than it is Italian.
We'll figure out the J's and the G's.
Hero
hero
being
show.
hero being a Greek sandwich.
At some point.
Yep.
Guanciale being a Italian spiced meat.
Is La Pizza considered New York style? Yeah.
Yes,
then,
absolutely.
Yeah. Then I guess I have had New York City.
Yeah, of course you have.
Talena's used to be really good. Sarah's Pizza is good.
Yes.
That was good.
I think you're thinking of a different Talena's, Brooke.
I am.
So there you go. That's the latest on pizza. So tomorrow we're going to ask that question that these guys were just so. Here, let me tell you. Last night, so these guys asked me, I'm not.
I will turn off the show.
Was.
I will turn off the show. We won't even have an exit. We'll just just be turned off.
So I get this question and I give the answer.
Mm-hmm.
And
Randy.
And I give the answer, and then Brooke sends back Randy, and then in all caps, no. And then Matthew Rocchio sends back in all caps, Randall. And then Matthew also says, Jesus. And then I gave a ha-ha because my answer was funny.
So you could tease ahead, maybe, but please don't say what you were gonna say.
Okay. So the question
This is the question for tomorrow. I have the graphic up on the screen for everybody watching, Randy. This will be the graphic we use for tomorrow when we actually do the segment.
Okay.
Yes. Because they're bringing back extinct animals. And so I want to bring back an extinct player.
And I do too. These guys are
Randy,
just
no! Stop it. We need to wrap this up before he says it.
Okay.
This has been great talking to you guys. We're going to go watch the Cardinals and Pirates game. I saw that somebody already said that it looks like nobody else is watching the game of fans there in Pittsburgh, which is pretty fitting. That's such a beautiful park, by the way,
It is. It's a
PNC.
shame that nobody wants to go there.
Yeah. What does it say? Judging by the crowd size, it's just me and the announcers watching this one. You're probably correct. Somebody already guessed what you were going to say, Randy, in the chat.
Oh,
we need to close
did
it
they
out.
really?
We need to
Hold
close
on,
it
let's
out.
see.
We need to close her out.
Chat, thank you.
We need to close her out.
Oh, there it is. Yep, you're right. Spencer, thank you. You got me pegged, brother. We appreciate it. Thank you very much for being a part of this show. We love the fact that you interact with us so much on the chat line, and we love having you as part of the family here at Sports Hub STL. And we will see you tomorrow morning at 10:02. So long, everyone.
Our family.